Uttarakhand. So that's about me. I have completed Masters in Counseling Psychology. So it would be great if some of you people can also share about where you come from, in which class you're studying currently, and what is something that you like doing in your free time. So let's interact a bit before we jump into the topic. Anyone? Yes, Vashi, please go ahead.
So I'm Vachi and I am studying in grade 10 currently and I'm from Noida.
Okay, thank you so much. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sejal. I currently live in Gurgaon and I just graduated high school.
Okay, that's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, we have Palak.
Yeah, I'm Palak and I'm from Sonipat, Haryana, and I'm in class 12th right now.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Zara.
Hi, I'm Zara Kazi. By the way, really sorry for the late joining. I was preoccupied. I am from Mumbai. I have just completed my high school as well, and I've already started my first year in BBA in Atlas Skilltech University.
Okay, congratulations on that. I'm so sorry for the people who could not participate. Due to time crunch, I'll have to jump to the topic that we are supposed to study today. So let's keep interacting throughout the session, okay? Okay, I'll share my screen. All right. So, you people know that we're going to talk about brain today. We are going to take a look at the structure and its function. And we're going to talk about the basic unit of the nervous system, that is neurons. And neurotransmitters are certain chemicals that pass on the message from one neuron to another. Okay. So, this is our basic topic, the overview. Before we get started, I would like to ask you people if you know anything about the brain, anything interesting that you would like to share with the class.
Would you like, are you entertaining interesting facts or just stuff to think about?
Let's stick to facts for now.
Okay, so like about the brain structure, so I'll just give a little bit background. I have studied psychology in high school before. I'm a diploma graduate in that subject. So obviously I've done brain structure, functions and all that. And basic definition is that the brain is a complex entity with several neural networks and regions, several functions.
Right. I'm not able to see if anyone else has raised their hand since I'm sharing the screen. So if you would like to participate, you can just, go ahead and talk.
Aki, you have raised your hand if you would like to go ahead.
Yeah, the same thing, like brain is a complex structure plus one fact that we have billions of neurons in our body or like in our brain. And yeah, that's it.
Right. Thank you so much for participating. Let's move forward. So, the first fun fact that I have to share with you people is that there's an actual brain museum in India. It is situated in Bangalore. It's called Nimhans Brain Museum. So they have been preserving the brains of people who have been suffering from different diseases for over 40 years now. And you also get to see organs apart from brain, like you get to see lungs of a smoker and liver and other organs as well there. So if any one of you is from Bangalore, I think you can plan a visit to this museum. All right. The second fact would be that, the average adult human brain weighs 3 pounds and it has a texture like a firm jelly. Um, so just wonder, in a small space that we have between our ears, there's something that is weighing 3 pounds. Isn't that wonderful? The third fact is that the human brain cannot feel any pain. It does not have any pain receptors. And like you people shared, the brain contains over 86 billion neurons or nerve cells. Right? The fourth fact is the human brain is faster than the computer and is capable of solving problems more efficiently. So I remember that there was once an English teacher that we had. She would always tell us. She shared this information in the class that whenever you sit down to study, always repeat this 3 times that my brain is stronger than any computer in the world. So this is how she would motivate us to into thinking that you have the capability. So it is indeed a fact that she was sharing in the class. So without any further ado, I would just jump into the topic for today. That is the brain. Like you all said, brain is the most complex human organ. In fact, is still being researched, and we are yet to understand a lot about the brain. And interestingly, it is also described as the crown jewel of the human body. It is the place where all the complex functions like thinking, reasoning, problem solving, memory, attention, perception, everything that goes on in the body. And in fact, the way I am, swaying my hands, it is also being controlled by the brain somehow. So anything and everything that we do is being controlled and handled by this organ called brain. It is an important part of the central nervous system, right? So it could be the understanding of the brain could be complex. So we are sticking to the basic classification. We learn about the forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindbrain. Okay. So this is a visual representation of what is comprised of the forebrain, as in what consists of the forebrain. Where's the midbrain located in the brain and the hindbrain? So let's take a look at each of these. The forebrain includes cerebrum, hypothalamus, and thalamus. So the forebrain consists of the cerebral cortex, the limbic system. So the major function of the forebrain is it controls the body temperature, it controls emotions, the basic drives that we have. That is what the forebrain controls, right? So cerebrum is basically involved in controlling the muscle function, the speech, and emotions and learning. Okay. Then moving ahead, the limbic system comprises of thalamus, hypothalamus, hippocampus, and amygdala. Right. So the thalamus is it acts as a relay. It acts as a station for all the sensory information that travels to the brain, and here the sensory information is being processed, and then it is sent forward to the cerebral cortex. Okay. We will learn more about the cerebral cortex in the further slides. Now talking about hypothalamus, here all the basic drives that we have is being managed. Be it hunger, thirst, sexual drives, and your body temperature, everything is being controlled by the hypothalamus. As you can see, just below the hypothalamus is the pituitary gland, which is also called the master gland of the body. So hypothalamus is also responsible for controlling and managing the pituitary gland. Right. Now talking about the midbrain, it is majorly responsible for controlling the motor functions of the body. So here, as you can see that sensory and motor functions are managed and controlled. So be it hearing, perception, your temperature regulation, your balance in the body is maintained by the midbrain. It acts as a vital connection point between the hindbrain and the forebrain. As you can see here, it lies somewhere between the hindbrain and the forebrain. So it acts as a connection point for the two, and it is also involved in the movement, regulating the movement of head and the body. So maintaining the body posture is also regulated by the midbrain. Now talking about the hindbrain, here you can see the three parts that comprise the hindbrain is pons, medulla, and cerebellum. So pons, the word pon means bridge, right? It acts as a bridge between the spinal cord and the cerebral cortex. So it is also a crossover for all the motor nerves that we have in our body, right? So whatever message that the brain wants to send to any part of the body, for example, hands or legs or internally. So this is sent from the brain via the nerves that are there in the pons. So it is acting as a bridge. Moving forward, talking about medulla. Medulla, like pons, is a crossover for the motor nerves. Medulla is a crossover for the sensory nerves. So all the sensory nerves from right side of the body connects to the left side of the brain. Sensory nerves from the left side of the body connects to the right side of the brain. So this is how the information from the right side, any sensory information is passed on to the left side of the brain and vice versa. So that is what happens at medulla. It is also responsible for controlling the vital functions like your blood pressure, heart rate, and involuntary reflexes like swallowing, sneezing are all controlled by medulla. So it is it has a very basic function, but you would not like to injure this because all the prominent aspects, all the prominent functions are being like the heart rate, your breathing is being controlled in this part of the hindbrain, right? Now, cerebellum is it maintains the balance and posture. It is also it is in connection with the temporal lobe. It maintains the balance and all the voluntary movements that happen at a rapid pace. For example, you're walking, running, if you're dancing, if you're playing a musical instrument, are all regulated by the cerebellum. So all the learned habits and reflexes are stored in this part of the brain, which is called cerebellum. Yes, now we will move forward to understanding the lobes of the brain. So the cerebral cortex is divided into two lobes. So that forms the left and right hemisphere of the brain. And this is connected by a thick nerve fibers, thick line of nerve fibers, which is called corpus callosum. So corpus callosum is important in communicating, as in facilitating communication between the left and right side of the brain. So if you look at the position, this is where you will find your frontal lobe, right? So if you relate it to the game, that if you have ever played the head shoulder knee toe, where you're instructed to touch the different parts of the body. If you remember this in that way, it will be much easier to understand. This is the frontal lobe. Here, just behind the frontal lobe, as you can see, is the parietal lobe, right? Now temporal lobe. So this part of the face is called temple. So just behind our temples is the temporal lobe, right? Hence the name, because it's in the front, hence the name frontal lobe, because it lies behind the temporal lobe. So quite simple to understand that way, right? The fourth lobe is occipital lobe, which is located at the back of the head. So if you're ever sitting with your friends, just play this, touching your the part of the body that the third person is instructing, like we do in head, shoulder, knee, toe. So you will be able to retain this information for much longer if you are engaging with the information that you learn. So let us look at what function is performed at each of the lobes of the brain. So the frontal lobe is responsible for performing all the major executive functions like attention, memory, critical thinking, problem solving, decision making. These are things that are taking place in the frontal lobe. Okay, so this part of the brain, the frontal lobe, is responsible for all the complex processes that are being performed in the brain. Second is the occipital lobe. It is an area which is responsible for the visual processing. So the primary visual processing is happening here. So any information that you're able to grab as you are seeing something. So be it the depth, distance, identifying the object that you're looking at, all of that information processing happens at the occipital lobe. So it is the area which is responsible for processing the information that we are seeing, the visual information. Right? Now moving forward to parietal lobe. So in this area, we see that the information relating to temperature, touch, or body position, everything is being processed here, and even the position or the temperature or regulation of the internal body, as in anything happening at any muscle or at any gland, all those information are processed in the parietal lobe. It contains the somatosensory cortex, which processes the information. If you are touching something hot, if you touch something thorny, then you'll be able to perceive the information that you need to take your hand back. That information is being processed at the parietal lobe, right? Now talking about the temporal lobe. This is majorly concerned with information, auditory information processing. So it contains primary auditory cortex, which enables you to hear and discern the sound, understand the sound that you're hearing, as well as the auditory association area. So what role does it play? It helps us in understanding the language. It helps us in learning. It helps us in creating memories as well. So this is just like I said, it is found just behind the temples of the head. Right. Now that we've learned about those lobes and its function, I would like to present a situation to you people, and I would like to see how much of the information that I shared just now has been understood by you. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So the situation is your friends and you have decided to go for a movie this weekend, or maybe let's assume that you already enjoyed your weekend by watching the movie. So what went into the whole processes that you had to plan? Where would you like to go to watch the movie? What movie would you like to watch? And what time would be comfortable for the whole group? So all these planning took place, okay? And you were successful in executing the plan, and it was a great weekend for you people. So now the question is, given the situation, which of the lobes were prominently used? What do you think?
Can I answer?
Sure, sure.
So I think the frontal lobe is used because it is primarily used for decision making and like complex decision making. So I think that was the major lobe used for this.
Okay. So do you think any other lobes were also into play?
Yeah, occipital lobe was used for hearing. No, or visual. And there
Yeah,
was one
right.
more lobe which was used for the hearing, that visual part.
Could I
Okay.
add?
Temporal lobe.
Right, right.
Okay.
Um,
Can I add another thing?
yeah, yes, please.
Yeah, so again, choice of the movie is something like you're choosing your preference. First would be the frontal lobe because it's a decision to be made. You'd be evaluating the types of movie. And then venue is something that is again geographical and also how to navigate to the venue. So there the hippocampus would come into play, which is occipital lobe. Again, while choosing anything, frontal lobe has an overlap because you're always evaluating and making a decision. But I wanted to go into the specifics of that venue part as well because personally, I would always be seeking the closest place possible or the most convenient way possible. And I think that comes like navigation plays a role in that. So again, occipital lobe would play a role. And then arriving at a mutual decision is again your feelings, your emotions. So again, your occipital lobe, if I'm not wrong, would be used. But overall, I think there's an overlap of frontal lobe, and even like they said, your senses, your temporal lobe would also play a role somewhere or the other.
Yeah. So just to correct one part, where you said that mutual decision, it would be something more of a function of frontal lobe rather than occipital lobe.
Yes,
When
absolutely.
you're yeah,
What I meant by
just
like decision making in general is frontal lobe responsibility, like that function.
right.
Just trying to clarify, what I meant was mutual decision also involves respecting other people's feelings and understanding your own emotions about a certain thing, no matter how small it is. So again, like the hypothalamus and even the amygdala would play a role in somewhere, like taking in consideration or understanding feelings. But obviously, like you mentioned, the decision to be made would directly go to the frontal lobe.
Right. Thank you so much for engaging. You people are absolutely right. The prominently used lobes were the frontal lobe, where all the planning and deciding took place. And then when you were experiencing or when you were watching the movie, you were using the occipital lobe because while you were watching, you were processing the visual information uh, that was being stimulated, plus the temporal lobe because sound plays a major role in while you're watching the movie. So these are the three lobes that were prominently in action. Now we will be moving forward to talk about the basic unit of the nervous system. So you people must be aware of what this structure is. So just go ahead and shoot the answer.
That's a neuron.
Neuron.
Right. So now we'll talk about neuron. So neuron is the like bricks would be the basic building block of a house. So we can say that neurons are that for the nervous system. These are the specialized cells that are found in the nervous system. What are its functions? It receives the messages from external surrounding, and it sends it to the brain, and the brain receives the message, and it sends back to the whatever action is required to be performed. So it is the whole process of receiving and sending messages within the system that makes us act and perform. So anything and everything that you experience is basically it's the result of messages being passed from one neuron to another. Um, so that's how it works. So if we take a look at the structure of the neuron, the branch-like structures that you can see here on the top of the neuron, these are called dendrites. And the part that, from where the dendrites are extending, this whole structure in the center is called soma or cell body, which comprises of the nucleus. So like in every cell, nucleus is responsible for maintaining the function and sustaining the functions of the cell. So that is very much basic to the neuron as well. Then the tail-like structure extending from the cell body is the axon. The electrical signals are passed on from the axon. It reaches the axon terminal, which is the end part of the nerve. And from there, it is passed on to another neuron at the receiving end. So that would make dendrites the receiver of the message, right? So let's take a look. I've already described about the structure, right? So dendrites are responsible for receiving the message from one neuron to another. Axon are the part of the neuron which carry the message from one neuron to another, right? Now, if you people are, you must be aware of this logo. So if you can just tell me what it is.
Messenger.
Right, right. So what do you think acts as a messenger in the nervous system?
Neurotransmitters.
Absolutely correct. So now we are going to talk about neurotransmitters. So these are the chemicals which enable the brain cells to, pass on the message from one cell to another. Right. Neurotransmitters are basically stored in sac-like structures, which are called synaptic paths. And it is synaptic vesicles. I'm so sorry. Then it is when a message is being transmitted from the axon, it reaches the axon terminal. They release the molecules of the chemicals into the gap that is there between the one neuron to another, and that enables the molecules then get activate the receptors, and this is how the messages are being chemically transmitted from one neuron to another. So there are two major functions that neurotransmitters perform. First is excitatory. As the name suggests, it excites the neuron. It enables or allows the neuron to fire a message from one neuron to another. The second is the inhibitory function of the neurotransmitters. So what it does is it inhibits the neurons from passing on the messages from one neuron to another. Right. So these are the two important functions that are performed by the neurotransmitters. So now we are going to take a look at some of the important neurotransmitters. So the first is adrenaline or epinephrine. So this is basically responsible for the fight and flight response that is initiated when you are in a fearful situation or when you're experiencing stress. So adrenaline is the neurotransmitter which prepares your body to be in that fight or flight mode. So when the chemical is released, you would feel a rush, as in you'll feel an increase in the heart rate. You'll feel uh, that there's increased blood flow in the extremities of the body. That would be your um, limbs, and so it prepares you to deal with the situation. Um, and you can also see that it leads to heightened awareness so that you can be prepared for what's coming next. Um, Norepinephrine, in the same manner, also is responsible for increasing the blood pressure and blood flow in the body, and also the heart rate. Norepinephrine is as a drug. It is also prescribed to people who are suffering from ADHD because it boosts your attention. It boosts the level of attentiveness that you can exhibit in a situation. So adding 1 point to adrenaline, because it increases your heart rate, it increases your blood sugar. If there's excessive amount of adrenaline in your body, it can lead to you can suffer from blood pressure or diabetes. So these can be some problems that can be found if there's excessive release of adrenaline in the body. So that, and norepinephrine also aids in decision making, whether what action would you would like to take in the face of the fear or the stress that you're experiencing at that moment. Dopamine is the pleasure hormone. It helps us in experiencing pleasure, satisfaction. So it is also associated with so when you do something that you seek pleasure from, there's a pleasure pathway that is forming in the brain, right? Which is because of the dopamine that is being released. So in case anyone consumes any sort of drugs, be it tobacco or cocaine or any drugs of that sort, so it is highly related to uh, creating that or maintaining that pleasure pathway. So hence it's also mentioned that it is also related to addiction. And it's also mentioned that people repeat behaviors that lead to dopamine, right? So that leads to you getting hooked to a certain kind of drugs that someone is consuming. So it is responsible for that. If there's dysfunction in this neurotransmitter, it can lead to Parkinson's disease. It can lead to schizophrenia. It can lead to ADHD as well. So that's what we know. If there's excessive release of dopamine in the body, it can lead to these problems. Serotonin is responsible for the quality of sleep that we have. It is responsible for regulating our mood. It is responsible for maintaining anxiety, appetite, and if there's an imbalance in the levels of serotonin in the body, it can lead to you suffering from seasonal affective disorder or anxiety, depression, to name a few. These are, or even chronic pain. If there's excessive release of serotonin, or if there's an imbalance of serotonin levels in your body, it can lead to those problems, right? Now we'll move on to GABA, which stands for if I'm not wrong, it stands for gamma aminobutyric acid. Yeah. gamma aminobutyric acid. It regulates the activities in the brain. It is responsible for regulating your I'm sorry. So it basically calms your central nervous system, meaning the brain and the spine, which comprises of the central nervous system. It increases your focus. It would contribute in lowering the levels of anxiety. And if you are anxious, if you're suffering from depression, GABA is a neurotransmitter that plays an important role along with serotonin as well. So now acetylcholine, it is the first neurotransmitter that was discovered. It is responsible for muscle contraction. So if acetylcholine is not being released, it might lead to paralysis. It might so the muscles won't be able to contract, and the major it also regulates. It helps the heart in contracting. So if there's an excessive release of acetylcholine, it can lead to paralysis. And like it's mentioned, it is involved in learning, memory, thought processing. Then next is glutamate. It is a neurotransmitter which is involved in learning, memory. It regulates your it regulates the creation of nerve contact, as in passing on, building that connection, so that the electrical signals can be passed on from one nerve to another. Then we have endorphin, which is also called as the happy hormone. It is released while you work out or while you do something that you enjoy doing. For example, it could be workout, it could be a dance routine, it could be a jog. So anything of that sort. When you feel that sense of satisfaction, sense of well-being after doing that activity, it is because of the endorphins that are released. It also helps in managing pain and regulating pain if you have any. So this is what the different neurotransmitters are responsible for, and this is what their role is. Now we would go on to, I have kept the quiz very simple, but I am definitely sure that you people are all aware of the answers. So let's get started. So the first question is, someone has raised their hands.
Yes, ma'am, I just had a small doubt in the neurotransmitters. The
Yeah.
thing is, so like you said just now, endorphins they're in association with euphoria, feelings of self-fulfillment or excitement or preservation, etc. So this is another thing that can overlap with addiction, right? Like, because a lot of substance abuse would also provide that sense of satisfaction and release of endorphins along with dopamine, of course, because the main neurotransmitter that plays a role in substance abuse is dopamine. But this does play a role in that as well, right? Release of
So-
endorphins.
Yeah. So I have never come across, any content where endorphins are being held responsible for addiction. But definitely, I have learned about the pleasure pathways that form because of the consumption of different drugs. But I can always go back and check if endorphins are, also responsible, because it is mentioned that it is released when you are also excited. So it is possible that it is responsible, but I am not entirely sure. So allow me to check and get back to you.
Yes,
Will that be okay?
yes.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions apart from this? Can you please reply with a yes or no?
Ma'am, similar question related to a different neurotransmitter. This is a quick one actually. It is just about the overlap of adrenaline and dopamine. So when you said that imbalance of dopamine can result in ADHD, correct? Like Parkinson's disease, that is another separate thing, but ADHD as well, because there are too many things at one time, too many contradictory actions to do at the same time. So all of which would provide pleasure if they're done properly. So a similar, I had that doubt that adrenaline also activates your like fight or flight. Like it gives you a physical boost of energy to do something or accomplish something. So in that sense, an imbalance of adrenaline could also result in ADHD. Like, is there an overlap with adrenaline as well?
So let us understand when is adrenaline released in the body. It is only when we say fight or flight. This is the nervous system's response when you are facing an uncertain situation, an unforeseen situation in which you do not know uh, uh, what you can possibly do. So it is in face of stress or fear you are seeing that the adrenaline is being released, right? But in case of ADHD, it's quite different. You are not able to sustain your attention. You're not able to maintain, maintain. You're not able to remain in a calm position, hence leading to the hyperactivity. And there are a lot of different things associated with ADHD, as in these are not the only criteria that would qualify someone as suffering from ADHD, right? So these are two different situations that we are talking about. Fight or flight is most necessarily the response that our body has, the nervous system has, when we are in a situation, in an unforeseen situation, in a dangerous situation, or a threatful situation. So in that case, the body is being prepared for the action with the release of adrenaline. But in case of ADHD, I'm not really sure that how can we relate the fight or flight response to someone suffering from ADHD.
Okay, understood. So instead, it can be something like noradrenaline imbalance because that is involved in concentration and attention span.
Right, right.
Something like
Right.
that, there's an imbalance could also add to the severity of ADHD.
Yes.
Okay, understood.
Yes.
Thank you.
In case of norepinephrine, we can say because it is highly related to our ability to be alert and attentive in a situation. So, very good reference that you've drawn. Norepinephrine and dopamine can both be responsible for ADHD, but not adrenaline.
Yes, understood. Thank you.
Anyone else has any questions from any other section that we have completed?
Ma'am, what Zara just pointed out got me thinking. In the case of ADHD, you just said adrenaline is usually secreted when a person is faced with like a stressful situation that your body. For a person with ADHD, a lot of like stimulus are they're like easily overstimulated, right? Because a lot of things causes them stress. So like the constant like overstimulation and stress would cause the secretion of adrenaline, right? So ADHD should, uh, cause the secretion of adrenaline. Because in the end of the day, yeah.
Yes, yes. Is your question complete, or do you want to add anything to your question?
No. I just wanted to continue on that. If you, yeah.
Okay. So, see, we need to understand that overstimulation does not necessarily mean that, the child or the person is being stressed by that. Does it necessarily mean that because I'm overly stimulated, I am also stressed by that?
But it could lead to stress, right? Overstimulation could
It
lead
could.
to,
It could definitely.
and stress could lead to secretion of adrenaline,
Yeah.
and that could lead to
So,
ADHD.
right. But as far as what I have prepared for this lecture, I can most definitely surely say that norepinephrine and dopamine are responsible for if there is an imbalance of these two neurotransmitters, that would lead to ADHD. So hence norepinephrine is provided as a drug when someone is suffering from ADHD. So why is that? In order to boost their attentiveness, in order to aid to their attention, provide an aid to their attention. So that is there. It also depends on how the person is perceiving the overstimulation. If at all, it can definitely lead to stress, but it also is a very subjective matter if we take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other doubt or question?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then let's move to this quiz, which is very simple. So the first question is, which of the following is not a part of the brain? Okay, you can go ahead and answer.
Myelin sheath.
Correct. Okay. The second question is, the function of dendrites is? Anyone?
It transfers the electrical impulses from one neuron to the other.
Solid answer connection, like it attaches, the dendrite helps in attaching itself to another neuron that helps in transfer of information.
A dendrite also receives the signal. That they're the receptors that take the message in and then pass it on to the next neuron in the synaptic gap or the synapse.
Right. So, who was the third one to answer? Can you please tell me your name?
Zara.
Zara. You are absolutely right. So dendrites act as a receptor of the messages that is being passed from the axon terminal, to the synapse to the other neuron. It is the receiving end, and like you said that it like the other person said, one of you, that it attaches to the axon terminal. That is not true. The gap will always sustain. The release of molecules, that is the neurotransmitters, enables the passing on of the electrical signals from one neuron, the axon terminal, to the dendrites of the other neuron where the message is supposed to be passed. So the function of dendrites is to receive the message.
Yes, ma'am, noted.
Okay. Very easy question. About how many neurons does the human brain contain?
86 billion.
Yeah, 86.
Okay. Can you people name some of the excitatory neurotransmitters?
Glutamate.
Right.
Adrenaline.
Dopamine, serotonin.
Yes,
No.
dopamine. Dopamine.
Glutamate is right. adrenaline is right.
Endorphins.
Endorphins.
So,
Serotonin is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, right?
right. So one would be glutamate, another one would be adrenaline, third one would be norepinephrine. So these are the three excitatory neurotransmitters that we have. And if we talk about the inhibitory neurotransmitters, we have GABA and serotonin. These are inhibitory neurotransmitters. Okay, apart from this, do you people have any questions from any part of the presentation? If not, then I would like each one of you to add a point, and that way summarize the whole presentation. Like one person adds 1 point, and the other person contributes to the point. So that is how we will conclude the session, by having a summary from you people.
Can I just add another like reference kind of thing before we start the summary? Like I just thought of another thing in the neurotransmitters. So the one, if you could just like tell me the full form again. I don't remember this. I think gamma
Gamma amino butyric acid.
butyric acid. Okay.
Butyric acid.
Gamma amino butyric acid.
Yeah.
Okay. So that one is it regulates your calm effect, and like it when it's high levels you improve focus, low levels cause anxiety, as it's mentioned there. So like you said, a very severe low level could result in anxiety. So the generalized anxiety disorder would be a consequence of this imbalance, right? Or like low levels of this neurotransmitters. Just trying to make a connection to a disorder.
This, as well as serotonin, also has a role to play when it comes to anxiety. So it also contributes to anxiety and depression, for that matter. All right. Anything else that you people would like to add, or can we go ahead and summarize the whole lesson?
We can summarize the lesson.
Okay. Since you have started, speaking, can you start with the first thing that comes to your mind?
So the first fact was that the average brain weighs average human brain weighs around 3 pounds, and we have 86 billion neurons in our body. And the human brain cannot feel any pain, as it does not contain any pain receptors.
Amazing. Who would like
Human brains are faster than computers.
Right. So you need not, go in exact order. You can share whatever point comes to your mind. That is also fine. There's no pressure.
If we have 86 million neurons,
Right. Can we try and not repeat the points?
The
Add
brain-
a new point.
I didn't know this was done. Sorry.
Okay. It's okay. Not a problem.
the brain has it's divided into three main parts: forebrain, hindbrain, and midbrain. And forebrain has cerebrum and medulla, and not medulla, sorry, cerebellum, thalamus, hypothalamus, and pituitary gland. Midbrain is sort of a bridge between the forebrain and the hindbrain. Hindbrain has the cerebellum, medulla oblongata, and the pons.
Right. Cerebrum is in forebrain and cerebellum is in the hindbrain. Absolutely correct.
Okay, so moving on, then I'll explain the four lobes of the brain. So there's the frontal lobe, which is in the front, right behind your forehead. I'll explain the functions after I name like all the lobes. Then there's the temporal lobe, like sides, basically in between, in the middle of it all, right behind our temples. Parietal lobe is the sort of hind part of our brain, not exactly below, on the top, and occipital lobe is the most lowest part of the brain at the back. And so frontal lobe is basically functionalizes in decision making, thinking, all thought processes, your language skills, comprehension. Then your parietal lobe takes care of all the internal bodily functions, of hormones and everything that comes with it. Then there's temporal lobe that regulates your senses, your sensory motor functions, the responses to it, how you behave in response to it, your hearing, auditory senses, touch, all of that. And occipital lobe is responsible for part of it, like the main organs are responsible for your involuntary movements as well as voluntary movements, like involuntary being breathing or sleeping, the subconscious mind, and voluntary movements being your balance and your like I said, voluntary movements, walking, talking, gestures, all of that. And also emotion regulation, because there's the hippocampus as well as the amygdala that take a part in that.
Right. Occipital lobe is responsible for visual processing of information. Temporal is related to auditory information processing, major functions.
I had a doubt in that. Occipital
Yeah.
lobe is for visual processing, right?
Yeah.
So will perception come under occipital lobe? Because perception is the interpretation of information, right? But it's usually visual. So is perception a part of occipital lobe?
No, perception is a complex process where you make sense of
Interpret.
what you are seeing. So it is not just what you are seeing. It's not limited to that. So when you're perceiving something, you are also kind of understanding that object in depth, right? So when it comes to perception, it is more of a function of frontal cortex, frontal lobe, than the occipital lobe. Occipital
we
lobe
need
is just
But we need to visualize something to perceive it, right? So
right. So that is just the act of seeing. But when it comes to perceiving, you're also making sense of it, storing it. So all of that forms a part of the frontal lobe. The act of it is all the lobes are functioning in coherence with each other. That is there. That is very much true. But when we say perceiving is not just limited to viewing something, or just we look at something and that is perception. No, that is not. Perception is a more complex process in itself, right? So it is more concerned with being an executive function. Hence, it is a part of the frontal cortex.
Ma'am, I had a similar, like I had a follow-up question to what Anandita just said. So when it comes to perception or interpretation from the social or cultural point of view, of course, there's a million processes happening in the brain. Your frontal lobe is also active because you're thinking, decision making, all of that is active. That's correct. So when it comes to a social part of it, that is a different thing. But when it comes to like perceiving in your mind, okay, I'll give you an example. So hippocampus, as you know, that is involved in navigation and spatial information. So like it tells you, like it helps in regulating or your understanding of where you are and where you're going. and also understanding like mazes or map routes and all of that. So when you're thinking of something like that in a visual form, like perceiving the right way to go or perceiving where you are from a third point of view, not from your first point of view, like putting yourself on in a maze and then perceiving the way out. So in that sense, a perception when it comes to a visual aid would have some role, like she said, like occipital would play some role in that.
Right. When you talk about navigating, or when you talk about being in that, this is called spatial intelligence, where you are able to place yourself somewhere, and you are able to make sense of the different dimensions of whatever you're thinking. So in that sense, it is not that frontal lobe is working in isolation, because obviously when you're perceiving, the first thing that is happening is the sensory input of the information from your eyes, right? It is being processed in the occipital lobe. Then it goes on to the frontal lobe, where you learn about it, where you where your schema is formed. That okay, if if you talk about four-legged animal, you would think of cow. Then you would understand that okay, what does a cow look like? So there is categorization happening when you're perceiving. There is compartmentalization happening when you're perceiving. In the same manner, like you're saying that when you want to think of something from a third person perspective, or you want an bird eye view of something or understanding of something, obviously you're trying to visualize it, where your imagination is involved, your ability to form those images are involved. So it's more of using your spatial intelligence. And how are you able to do that in the first place? Because you have the sense of how that thing looks. You're able to provide that depth, you're able to maintain that distance while you're imagining. So obviously everything is into play. So it's while you are doing a simple task as writing as well, there are multiple areas of the brain that lights up when you're connected to some brain screening device. So a lot of it, like nothing is working in isolation, is something that I want to put across for better understanding. Everything is working in coherence, and hence we're able to there are a lot of things happening in the body while I'm talking, right? There are a lot of things I am thinking this information that I want to deliver. I have thought of it, and then I'm able to speak at the same time. So the left hemisphere is responsible for language. I am able to think from the frontal cortex. I am able to say these things from my memory. So hippocampus, amygdala. A lot of things are involved, right? So to put it very simply, there are multiple functions being taking place in the brain while we are doing anything. So does that answer your question? Does that clarify your doubt?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else? Any other question that comes to your mind? So I think you people have covered most part of the presentation in the summary. Does anyone feel that anything should be repeated or anything that I can possibly add to the summary? Anything? Yes, no? Or are we good to conclude the class?
Good to from my end, good to conclude the class.
Okay, what about rest of you people?
Yeah, same.
Conclude. All right, so let us conclude with a quick feedback. How did you find the lecture? How did you enjoy listening to this lecture?
Yes, Baba was interesting.
Thank you, watching.
Yeah, it was really interactive as well, and even though I do have some prior knowledge in it, the main neurotransmitters part was very fascinating because I got to learn a few more that I didn't know about before. And even the association that we did with the kind of disorders that could happen with imbalances, that was really fascinating.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Anyone else who would like to add?
Yeah, the session was very